into the Google Meets to use your projector.
This one will take a second.
So we'll call to order the roll call board norms and then do the pledge. And then we're going to have you guys do your performance. So you'll do the pledge and then you're going to do your performance and then we're going to move the kids right behind that. So,
Okay, can I see that real quick? I got that code. Okay, that code is XWO dash RZ HQ dash CZ.
So Caitlin, when we're ready, then we would just click on our tab to go.
No, the first thing you'll do is present now, and then go, just click on the tab that you want. Yeah. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order at 5:07. I'm going to do a roll call. Vice President Guadiana,
Present.
Secretary Terrazas,
Present.
and myself. So we do have a quorum. That moves us to item C, our board norms.
Actively listen to all perspectives.
Close the loop, responding to concerns and questions as a unified board.
Model the professionalism we expect from all members of a district and community. Customer service orientation.
Assume positive intent.
Be positive and responsive.
That moves us to item D, pledge of allegiance. And I believe a student's going to lead us in English and Spanish.
Start again, start again. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation.
under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The state of New Mexico does thee assemble a perfect friendship among united cultures. Good job, guys.
Okay, that's gonna bring us to our early student performance. You guys are ready?
Good evening. Should I use my teacher voice too?
Yes, I would.
Good evening, everybody. Board President, board members, Troy, parents, community, staff, and students. Thank you all for coming today. We're very honored to be able to present to you a little bit of what our graders have been working on. I just want to say a little bit about this class. They are class of leaders
on, nice and loud where we can hear you, Isaiah.
Doesn't mean it's out of sight. Hi, my name is Caitlin. Just because I like Selena doesn't mean I can sing, and just because I'm reading doesn't mean I know everything. Hi, my name is Sophia. Just because I'm older doesn't mean that I am taller, and just because I missed a shot doesn't mean that I'm a baller. Hi, my name is Santiago. Just because I'm bright doesn't mean I can't get smarter, and just because it's easy doesn't mean it can't get harder. I will also be reading from my friend Layla. She is up. Just because I'm bad doesn't mean I can't be good, and just because I make a mistake doesn't mean I'm not misunderstood. My name is Miguel. Just because I have talent doesn't mean that I am greater. And just because I do not drive doesn't mean I'm not a navigator. I will also be reading for Bonnie Venator. Just because you're bigger doesn't mean you are stronger. And just because I am small doesn't mean I can't get longer.
Hi, my name is Maya, and I will be filling in for my friend Ronaldo Minus. Just because I'm quick doesn't mean I can't get faster, and just because we lost doesn't mean it was a disaster. Just because I'm laughing doesn't mean that I'm not crying, and just because you think I'm dumb doesn't mean that I'm not trying.
Hi, my name is Zeke. And just because I'm small doesn't mean I can't be great, and just because I'm not an artist doesn't mean I can't create. Hi, my name is Sofia Rodriguez, and I'm going to be reading a couplet. Just because I wear a mask doesn't mean I'm sick, and just because I have a house doesn't mean it's made of bricks. Hi, my name is Jeremiah, and I'm going to be saying a couplet. Just because you're losing doesn't mean you have to give up. And just because you're down doesn't mean you can't get up.
Hi, my name is Caleb, and I'll be reading a couplet. Just because I like old music doesn't mean I... Wait. Oh. I thought it was Jamal.
Okay, go ahead. Read yours.
Just because I like old music doesn't mean I don't like new, and just because I'm happy doesn't mean I can't be blue.
Hi, my name is Ben, and I'm going to be reading a couplet. Just because I'm big doesn't mean that I'm strong. And just because I'm not right doesn't mean that I am wrong.
Hi, my name is Arabella, and I'll be reading a couplet. Just because I'm frowning doesn't mean I'm mad. And just because my eyes have tears doesn't mean that I am sad.
And if it's okay, I'll go back and read my arrays just because I promised them that they would all be represented here one way or another. Except I can't even see. Oh my gosh. Yes. Thank you. Just because you're bigger doesn't mean you are intimidating, and just because I'm present doesn't mean that I'm participating. Thank you.
Would you guys mind if we let her go ahead and read her thing again? Because I don't feel like, did everybody get what she said before?
Oh, mine? I want me to read this again? Okay. Okay. So I just said, as some of you may or may not know, my family suffered what for us was a life-changing event early on in the school year. In the process of living and recovering from this event, I was absent from these kiddos for a bit. Fortunately, to this day, everything has worked out for us, and I'm back in the space that I love. In the time I was out, I had lots to think about, and through that thinking, my priorities and perspectives changed and adjusted. One thing that I've been working to commit to is not letting words, thoughts, actions, or intentions sit and rest for the perfect time. If I learned anything, it's that tomorrow or the perfect time is not promised to any of us. With that said, as I work through our curriculum and plan lessons for my students, I am committed to doing all I can do to make up for the lost time we had, because in that time, not only was I not able to deliver instruction, but I also lost valuable time in forming genuine relationships with these students. For this reason, my commitment to making every lesson as memorable and engaging as possible is at the forefront of my thoughts and my intentions. So when poetry came up in our Sabbath reading curriculum, I got to my phone and tapped into all my resources to deliver something that would be fun, educational, and everlasting. Because on a side note, poetry doesn't always do that for all of us. As we worked up to this final project, we read different types of poems. We had discussions about their poetic forms and their structures. We hosted a little poetry slam, and we drew on some inspiration from Matthew McConaughey and Jimmy Fallon. In doing these things, I saw what I would describe as enthusiasm, motivation, and of course, understanding of the content, which I'm chalking up to a win. Through this project, not only did we birth poets, but we birthed illustrators, as you guys saw.
Thank you, guys. That was wonderful.
It's encouraging to see the students take on poetry and put it together so well. Your thoughts are very convincing, and follow those thoughts. One thing may appear that isn't that way. You guys are strong, and you guys can communicate it that very well. Good job.
Thanks.
Yeah, just want to say, it takes a lot of courage to get up there in front of a podium, in front of a camera. So, because I am shy about this stuff. So, good job, guys.
Thank you guys again. You guys did awesome. Some profound words were spoken. So thank you. Okay, that's going to move us to item E, Kiwanis Student of the Month. And I did get an email from Devin Baca's family that they would be running late, so we'll just fit that in whenever the student arrives. Okay, perfect. Okay. So with that, I'll go ahead and start with Devin. Devin doesn't need to be... All right. Devin doesn't need to be asked to do things around the classroom. He just does it, no matter what the task. Leads the class in appropriate class norms at all times. is very honest about anything that I ask of the class so that the entire class doesn't suffer. He is very solid. His moral compass, he has integrity, perseverance, empathy, and honesty. So Devin was nominated or has been nominated as Students of the Month. His science teacher wrote, he is always in class, always helpful in class, 100% participation, positive attitude towards peers, and is a leader without saying, I'm a leader. Congratulations and congratulations. So our other January Student of the Month is also our student representative, Medea Zapata. Medea has been nominated as the January Student of the Month. She is presently a senior at Cobre High School. She carries an excellent cumulative grade point average above a 3.49. Medea has enrolled in several honors classes, ensuring that she gets excellent grades. She always works very hard to make sure she is academically challenged and always works to do her best. Medea is active in school activities and was nominated as our 2023 DAR Good Citizen. Medea is a great student and a great young lady. She is very respectful, and all teachers enjoy having her in class. Medea is a wonderful young lady and very well deserving of this and any other recognition. Congratulations.
Oh, okay.
Yes, our student representative.
And a lot of sports.
Too many, in my opinion.
They were done last month, so I think those are the only two we have.
Yes, thank you, Medea. Congratulations. Congratulations to Devin. So that's going to move us to our item 2, our student representatives report.
The senior class is asking for permission to decorate their caps for graduation. I have talked with Mrs. Meeks and she has agreed as long as the seniors turn in a draft of what they will put onto the cap to her. NHS is helping with the blood drive on Thursday the 1st of February and is asking members of the community to come and please donate blood or help in any way they can. Cobre Baseball is also having an enchilada fundraiser on February 16th at the high school's cafeteria. Walk-ins are more than welcome to come in and buy enchiladas as well.
Thank you, Medea. That moves us. Sure. Let's get everyone home and dinner and everything.
I know during these meetings, sometimes you always feel guilty about getting up and walking out. So we're giving you your out right now, if you would like. Because I always are like, oh, should I get up and go? Thank you so much for bringing your students. Thank you for having them come and participate. But we also know that they have a lot to do and eat and do homework and all that. You are more than welcome to stay. I mean, it's a barrel monkey of fun, but if you'd like to stay, you're more than welcome.
Good, how about yourself?
Okay, so item 3 are action items. That moves us to item A, approval of agenda items. Mr. Corey, did you have any suggestions?
Madam President, I do not.
Okay, then I'd entertain a motion.
So move.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the agenda signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose? Okay. That moves us to item B, approval of our regular board meeting minutes of January 16th, 2024.
I move that we approve the minutes as written.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, same sign. Okay, that passes. Item C is review of bills. This did go through the Finance Committee.
I make a motion that we approve the review of the bills that was done on the 19th or 17th.
I know it was on a... It was last week.
Sorry. I move to approve the review of bills that was done on January 23rd, 2024.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, same sign. All right, that moves us to item D. Approve initial budget 21100 universal free lunch. This did come before the Finance Committee. The legislature allocated money to school districts for universal lunch. We already offer free reduced lunch in our district, so this is just additional funding to help with the inflation of rising prices of food. And I don't know if I left anything out, Mr. Ryan. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion we approve the 21100 universal free lunch as discussed.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion? See none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Oppose, same sign. That passes. That moves us to item E. Approve budget increase 24,194 comprehensive literacy state development. This item also went before the Finance Committee, and it's money left over of our Circle grant. Some has been allocated to supplies, curriculum, professional development, and I believe one employee that does our family engagement salary portion. Leave anything out? Okay. So I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the bar.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any other discussion? Okay, seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, same sign. That passes. That moves us to item F. Approve initial budget 24,355 homeless emergency rescue fund. And this also went before the Finance Committee. It's funding for emergencies, as it says in the bar. I believe it amounts like 5,300 to be used on students in case of emergency. I know we had a student whose home burned down, and we were able to buy bedding, so this would go towards things of that nature. I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve 24,355 homeless emergency rescue fund.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oppose, same sign. That's
Madam
approved.
President, if I ask a question.
Sure.
How are people made aware that we have this funding and for them to apply?
My understanding is our attendance coach and our director of special projects, we're going to get with the different schools, counselors, social workers, and talk to the schools about their needs.
Thank you.
Of course. Okay, that moves us to item G, approve initial budget 25,272, school violence prevention program. This also came before the finance committee. It's a grant we received for $500,000. Thank you, Mr. Corey, for writing this grant. This is gonna go towards some security cameras and radios for every staff member in the district. I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion that we approve the budget request for 25,272 school violence prevention program for 500,000.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion?
Just want to thank Mr. Corey, and I know Mr. Ryan had some part of that, but appreciate the hard work you guys put in for these additional funds.
It was definitely a team effort, so a lot of work went into this grant, but a lot of benefit will come to our district from it.
It's finally nice to see correspondence coming from the Department of Justice now, and it be so welcoming. Thank you guys for your work.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Okay, item G. That moves us to item 4, new business. Item A, the golf course budget line item discussion.
And I requested this item to be on the agenda, and it's because I've been asked, I know that we had talked about creating a line item and putting funding to that, and I was wondering where we are with that and how much it is, if it's already in there. So the request was to have an actual line item so they could understand what it is that's within the realm of how they can do things. And so the decision is not to put in the line item?
And I do recall Mr. Holgram asking us for this specific line item, but we had discussed it in finance, and the finance committee at that time said he should come before the finance committee, do a small presentation about, the needs and their costs. And at that time, Mr. Holgram was traveling to Indonesia, and so upon his return, and I think he's back because I received a text message from him today. So that was what the last thing I had spoken to him about. And so he knew he had to go before the finance committee with a small presentation so we know what his needs are and the costs and kind of an overview of the golf course for those people that were not able to go do a tour. I was able to go do a tour and talk to him and so that's kind of where we're at with that line item.
And I see him very frequently, and he had mentioned to me that he provided a lot of information on it and didn't know what else he could provide. And that's when we had the discussions about the collaboration with Bayard on getting an allocation of staff for half of the time to do the mowing, and then an allocation from the maintenance department to do the other half. That's fallen apart. Evidently, Bayard's not coming through with that.
No, they haven't come to the table and worked with us. I spoke to Miss Walton. I saw her Friday afternoon, and she said our district is solely maintaining it. So I suggested that they meet with the new mayor and see if that could be remedied with the new leadership, because it hasn't been happening.
Okay, and I would like kind of to keep the concept of a line item open for discussion, and as we start getting to work on the budget for next year, I hope to be attending a lot more of the finance committee meetings, and maybe we can discuss that at better length then.
Okay, sounds good.
Can I join in here? Is this working? Yeah. Another thing that I put in place for this is we actually had a volunteer come in to the district and wanted to work on the softball field and golf course. And so what we've done is sign them up as a substitute, so we are able to compensate them while they are doing the work at those two facilities. And I'm blanking the gentleman's name. So he's the one that lives right across the street from both of these, and he has expressed a great interest in being part of that process. So there's another one that hopefully we've put in place that will help alleviate some of the stress to our district and to the town.
Yeah, and recognizing the people that have been doing such tremendous work there have done it for a very long time, and they've done it for free.
I know.
And I think we had mentioned honoring them too at one of our board meetings, the longtime volunteers. So if we can get that set up for our next meeting.
But they've supplied a lot of the equipment, particularly the heavy equipment for like the mowing and stuff like that. You purchased it? Okay. But for many years, they provided it.
I just think they have a worry that it may not always be the case like that in the future. So I can see both sides of it. So we'll definitely have a discussion in finance. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, that moves us to item 5, our finance committee report. We did meet on Tuesday. We are going to be looking for another community member. Sharon Miller has resigned the position. She's not able to do it anymore. So I'm hoping we can put it out on our district Facebook, maybe an ad in the paper. We're looking for a community member. We discussed all the bars that we approved this evening. We did a thorough review of the bills. We also briefly talked about the budget and some of the hits that the district's going to take, specifically with our Circle grant and our ESSER funding. So we didn't really have a chance to look at the budgets. I know, Mr. Guadiana, you had mentioned the strengths of each school and taking a deeper look at their budgets and areas of growth. And so it's going to kind of be it is going to be a struggle if we don't get additional funding to recoup those ESSER and then the Circle grant money. So that's kind of the discussion we had. It was a good, productive meeting. Mr. Terrazas, I don't know if you have anything else to add.
No, just to thank Mr. Ryan and his staff for giving us the information that in front of us so we can we can discuss what is actually going on in the district. So thank you and your staff.
And that concludes my finance committee report. That moves us to item number 6, our audit committee report.
The Audit committee has not met yet since the last school board meeting, but we are on the we are on the calendar for the 31st, and that will meet the criteria of the one meeting per this month. But also there'll be much to discuss, and we'll be there.
Is there any way, Mr. Guadiana, we could get a timeline of maybe an end date when you have that next audit meeting?
Every meeting that we do have asks about a timeline, and that has been elusive in a number of different ways. One is that we're doing 2 years at one time, or we're trying to do the 2 years at one time, and special audits. So we've requested timelines. They haven't been provided, but we are in the process of making sure that we're submitting the documentation that they need, so we can get they can get a better estimate to us on where we are, and that's what a lot of this meeting is going to be this Wednesday, is where we are with our contributions of what we need, what is lacking, and we need to make sure that that's there for them to give us a sense of the timelines.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that moves us to item number 7, board members report. Vice President Guadiana, do you have anything?
No, I just have heard a few concerns and about the schools, and I'm going to be talking with Mr. Corey about getting some kind of time frame that I can go walk through some of the schools that have been brought to my attention. And it's not of a real significance in terms of, it's just a matter of are we taking a look at how things are going and some of the changes, whether they have had some reassessment as to whether they're effective or not. And otherwise, I also want to talk to Mr. Corey about still the deadlines for the funding, for the submissions for the materials for the consideration for funding of the school, as well as the innovations grant, and then go from there.
Okay, thank you, Vice President Guadiana. Secretary Terrazas, do you have anything to report?
Just want to thank the schools for being involved with our youth programs. You know, we're using some facilities. I know I take my grandson to Snell Middle School in the evenings, and that thing is busy from 5 o'clock till who knows what time. But thank the schools for cooperating with the youth programs. I know baseball, softball's coming right around the corner, so I know we're going to assist with that as well. So just want to thank the school district for being part of the youth.
Thank you, Secretary Terrazas. I just wanted to report I'll be at the School Board Association meeting up in Santa Fe along with Vice President Guadiana. I was able to attend a Snell Miners girls basketball game the other day. It was a lot of fun. They did awesome. They had a tournament going on. I just wanted to also, you know, thank our teachers and our staff of our district. It's hard as a teacher coming back in January after being gone for Christmas break, and so they show up every day and do the best that they can for our students, so thank you to our staff. That moves us to item number 8, our superintendent's report. Item A, updates.
Good evening, members of the board. I have a few updates this evening, and I want to start with safety and security. As you heard already this evening, we received a grant for $500,000, and the joy is we work quickly. So San Lorenzo Elementary is next on our list, and their system is already actually setting in our warehouse right now. So it has been ordered already. Okay, and installation is coming quickly. So we're extremely happy when funds finally get released. It's been quite some time of getting through the process to be able to access the funds. And so we're going to have many projects moving quickly now in the safety security area. Also, an update, I've reached out to David Chavez on our strategic plan, and my email was first talking to him about his loss and letting him know that Cobre Schools is ready to continue our process. And I reached out actually today with an email, kind of updating him on our board, because the next step is board retreat. And so I wanted his advice on if we wanted to wait just a little bit, or if we wanted to get everything lined up, ready to go to proceed if there's a new member coming onto our board. So I was also going to want to update you on that and check and see how we want to handle that as a district. The other one is I was just in Santa Fe, Grant County Day. It's amazing to get to go up and meet with everyone. What was really neat is our Cobre High School All-American cheerleaders had the privilege of actually being on the floor during session and recognized. And so it was really neat for those young ladies to come up and represent our school district with pride. And they did an amazing job. We had to wait quite a while, and there were other students on the floor. And these are the little things that I watch is our students sat there so polite and respectful. And there were other students there, of course, on their cell phones talking and playing. But our girls represented our school district with pride. And I was just super proud of them and their accomplishments. I was also able to meet with the Secretary of Ed and have a great discussion there. As I say, I politely took a shot at him about the 4-day week, but I did it politely. And so it's great to have those meetings so that we're able to sit down and have those conversations. It's not like we're mad at each other. We're just trying to, get through and do the best for, students here in the state of New Mexico. Also sat down with the governor, had a meeting with her, and, I just, like, sometimes, of course, we don't always agree with how politics go, but I want to say for this governor, as far as education, she's done an amazing job all the way from birth to, college, and she's always supported education. So there's a lot of great things that have happened, and, of course, there's things that I'll look her dead in the eye and tell her I'm not a fan of this 5-day week talk, that, and she looked us right back and said she was the one pushing this. And so it was great that she would listen, though, and we could talk about that and have a discussion about that and, how to proceed. So we had some great conversations, great meetings. Of course, always advocating for our district. I also want to say a big thank you to our representatives and what they do for our district. And they're always looking out for us, and I appreciate that more than they ever know. So it was a great meeting. Grant County Days, I feel, was a great success. So next on the agenda here is B with curriculum updates, and I'm going to pass it along to my right-hand lady over here that's been waiting patiently.
Mr. Corey, if I could just interrupt real
Yep.
quick. I had a question about the
Sure.
5-day week. Are they going to be waiting till after the session to announce, or have?
So the last feedback we received, actually even before we went up, is it was 2 weeks out. The 16th was supposed to be the day that decision was supposed to come out. The feedback we got as superintendents is there was 250 of us that spoke that day, and there was 2,000 emails. And so out of respect for everyone, they wanted to go through all of that information to be able to make a good decision. That was the last we had. Even speaking with them up there, they did not give us a time frame of when that was, and that was my polite shot that I did take at him, was we're trying to plan out our next year's calendar and all of those other things that has a massive effect on the entire state of New Mexico. And I said I was respectfully waiting his decision, I think is how I worded it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Corey, my colleagues that I'm sure are there tonight, and families. I am here to give you an update on curriculum. We do not have a whole lot of updates on curriculum. We haven't purchased any
we're doing learning blocks at the high school and also in the middle school. And then there is one supplemental material that we did purchase, and that's IXL. And that's for math, ELA, science, and social studies. And we had teachers requesting that supplemental material. So we did do a purchase on that for a few months to get us through the year.
Ms. Chavita, I also wondered if there were plans to, I know with our finance committee, we talked about that Circle grant funding, and I know there's some money set aside for curriculum that has to be spent by June. So I want to know if there's any plans on how that's going to be spent. I know a while back you had said something about lively letters for the kindergarten teachers. I just kind of wanted to see what plans were for that money.
Right. Right now, all the teachers are satisfied with the curriculum they have. We have purchased a supplemental material in kindergarten, but it was more of a Savas curriculum. They wanted some extra readers for that. They really didn't like the lively letters, but again, if they come to me and they would like it, then that's fine, we'll purchase it. But at this point, I've reached out to everyone and they have not requested lively letters.
Okay, what about social studies curriculum at the elementary? Is this something?
We already have that. We already have it, so we purchased that, and that's
Okay.
and that.
I just wondered what was going to be spent, what that money was going to be spent on.
Well,
with the urgency of that June 30th date.
Right. We've spent most of it already on curriculum. The rollover that we received is going towards PD mostly, not curriculum. So I'm going to try to. I'm going to go ahead and go into the data, the middle of the year data. I'm sure you guys want to get home before midnight, so I'm going to just highlight the district and the state data. I'm going to try to share my screen. I think I was having an issue with that. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, and also you have a copy of this in your board packet. I did have to revise a few numbers, but it's mostly, your board packet is mostly correct. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and go through the FOI daycare data and the pre-K data. That, we are still compiling the data for that, and that will be available on February 1st, which is Thursday. So we have no data to share for those kiddos. So on to the next page, which is the iStation reading. This is for kinder, first, and second grade. And I like to put trend data on here so you can compare last year to this year. And so let's go ahead and we're only going to highlight the district and the state. And you have for reference in your board packet the school's averages. So you can refer to that in your board packet. So for kindergarten, you have the beginning of the year was at 26%, and our middle of the year was at 63%. That is a 37% increase from beginning of the year to middle of the year. And then if you look at the state average is now at 30%. So we are 33% higher than the state average. So you go to first grade.
So Suzanne,
Yes.
on your presentation, we're still on
Oh, you are?
pre-K. I don't know what I got. FOI daycare is what I can see.
Wow.
Can you put it on presentation mode as well?
Okay. I thought I did.
Oh, there you go.
But I went from beginning. Can you see it? Should I just go from here? Can you see it, or should I go from beginning slide?
We can see
It's
it.
showing now.
We can see it, but it's really small. But I'm viewing it on my phone, and I think Mr. Guadiana has it printed out, and now Mr. Terrazas has the printout.
Okay. Because when I go from beginning of the slide, it shows on my end, I guess, but not your end. I don't know. Okay, so we'll just leave it there. first grade. And you have the beginning of the year was at 44, then we went to 74. But if you compare that to the state, middle of the year, they were at 30%. And for your information, this is the highest we have tested in first grade since the beginning of time. So first grade has done some amazing work this year. And then we have our second grade. We had beginning of the year was at 41. And we moved from 41 to 75%. In state, they're now at 32% at the middle of the year. So again, we're 43 points higher than the state. And I did want to mention this, I'm sure you heard that we were recognized by the New Mexico PED for our K through second scores for being one of the highest in the state. We have some of the highest growth. So we were asked to do a presentation last Friday, and so we had our interventionists, our coaches, and we presented to some of our other colleagues around the state of why we felt our scores increased. And again, I feel if we can attribute most of the rise in our test scores from our structured literacy implementation.
Well, and I think it's very important that looking at the budget next year, that we keep those interventionists. That's a high priority for our district. They're essential to classroom teachers to provide those much needed interventions.
I completely agree with you. And so we can go on to the next page, which is the math data for kinder, first and second. You have the district went from 28 at the beginning of the year to 62. And you compare that with the state. You didn't have that in your packet, but it's now the state average for middle of the year is now at 37%. So again, we're 34 points higher than the state, and that's in kindergarten. Then you go to first grade, and we were at 27% at the beginning of the year, and we were neck and neck with the state. They were at about 30%. What I find interesting when I'm reviewing this data is at the beginning of the year, we are a little below the state, but somewhat neck and neck. But we are growing leaps and bounds compared to the state. So again, in first grade, we were neck and neck at the beginning of the year, 27, 30%. And then we increased Cobre to 61% middle of the year. And then the state was at 41. You didn't have that number in your board packet. So again, we're 20% higher than the state average in math in first grade. And then you go to second grade.
Miss Chavita, so I see for Bayard it was like a 47% growth for first grade. Is that due in part to the part-time math interventionist?
We do have Mr. Rosa, and he's a math interventionist. He pulls mostly from third, fourth, and fifth, but at times he does support the lower grades.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. And then you have your second grade. We have 13%, 16% at the beginning of the year with the state, so we're neck and neck there. And then we, for the middle of the year, for our district, we were at 22%. The state was at 16%, but we were still 6% higher than the state. Okay? But we are on track to hit our proficiency rate from last year in second grade. So if you look at, let's see here, we have about 22 middle of the year. Last year we ended at 42. I believe we're going to be close to hitting that. Even though we didn't make a whole lot of gains, I feel that we will make that proficiency rate at EOY. Okay, so let's move on to IMASA data, which is the next page. So we have our third, fourth, and fifth for reading. So let's go ahead and compare our district with the state. And you have your schools on the page as well that you can reference. We have our beginning of the year for Cobre was at 20%, and we grew to 35%. And then compared to the state was at 29. So we're 6 points higher than the state in third grade for middle of the year. And then we go to fourth grade. We scored at beginning of the year, Cobre was at 15, and then we are now at 49. That's a huge growth in fourth grade. You see a lot of that growth in kindergarten, but it's rare that you see that type of growth in the upper grades. So bravo to our fourth grade teachers. And so we had 49% at MOY. We've already surpassed our EOY from last year. So last year we had, our end of the year score was at 45% in fourth grade, and we already are at 49. So that's pretty impressive. So then let's go to the fifth grade. So you have middle of the year for Cobre was at 45. So if you look at last year's EOY, we were at 43. So we've already surpassed that as well by 2 points. So fifth grade's doing awesome as well. And again, we're 6 points higher than the state average as well in our middle of the year. Okay, so we can go on to the next page.
The data that you've been reading, is that for the IMSSA language 3, 4, and 5?
That was for reading.
No, we were just doing the reading. Now we're on the language.
Okay. Okay.
Yes. So now we're on the next page is language, which is grammar. And let's talk about our third grade. So you have a third grade. It was 15% at the beginning, or 22% at the beginning of the year. And then we moved to 33% for Cobre. And we are still 9 points ahead of the state in third grade. And if you compare that to our end of the year from last year, we're close to it, right? We're only like 5 points off of our last year's score, our end of year score last year. So we're going to surpass that score as well. In fourth grade, we have middle of the year was at 44%. And we have the state at 33. So we were 9 points higher than the state in fourth grade. And again, if you look at last year's end of year score, we were at 43, and this year, in the middle of the year, we're at 44. So we already surpassed that score as well in fourth grade. Now we go to fifth grade. So fifth grade in language, in our middle of the year, for Cobre, we were at 40%. And then we compare that to the state, which was 35, so we're 5% higher in fifth grade. And so Cobre made a 6% growth from beginning of the year to the middle of the year. We can go to the next page, which will focus on math. So we all know math is our concern right now in the district, and we mentioned that several times. So you can see right here the state scored a 10%, and we were at a 6%. So we were 4% lower in math than the state in third grade. And we ended the year last year at 14, so we're at 6. We might get there, but I'm not sure. Then we have fourth grade, and we are 4% lower than the state. The state was at 12% in the middle of the year, and we were at 8%. Okay? And then we have fifth grade, and we were the same, 26 and 26. But we did grow. So, we do have to look at that, but there was some growth even though we were lower in fourth grade than the state. We did show growth from beginning to middle of the year, and even in fifth grade we showed growth. We were at 12%, now we're at 26, so we showed a lot of growth. If you want to look at the schools there, you see Bayard and Hurley had some really great growth. You had 21% growth at Bayard, and then you have 31% growth at Hurley. Very impressive for math.
So on the Bayard, we had 0% for beginning of year?
Yes, we sure did. But if you notice that, you had that Hurley and a lot of the grades start out with 0% growth. And that's not off of what the state shows. So if you look at the state showed 2% at the beginning of the year, right? So.
Yeah, and so, but if you go back up like to fourth grade, then Central shows 0% at mid-year, and San Lorenzo shows 0% at both the beginning of the year and mid-year.
Yes, we know that.
Looks like we need to start making some investments in math in that area, especially.
Right. And as I've mentioned, we've talked about math interventionists. We do have only 2 in the district. We have 1 at Snell and 1 at Bayard. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to the next page, which is 6th, 7th, and 8th on middle school. So we have Snell was neck and neck with the state in 6th grade for their middle of the year testing. But they did grow, so you want to look at that. So at the beginning of the year, they were at 18%, and they went to 26%. So they did grow by 8%. And if you notice, the state average fell 2%. So that was pretty impressive. Sixth grade, they did grow. Now you have 7th grade. We are lower than the state by about 5%, but they did grow 5% from beginning of the year to the middle of the year. So they have that growth. And then 8th grade, they are at 33%. They grew by 18 percentage points, which is great. We are higher than the state, so that's great. And then if you kind of compare it to our EOY of IMASA from last year, right? So if you look over there, are the maps from last year. The maps from last year, we had 28% proficient in 8th grade. We are already at 33%. And then if you compare it to the EOY from 21-22, that was at 35, and we're already at 33. So if you look at it that way, we are growing. So if you go on to the next page, which is language. So we're going to go over language for the middle school. So you have, for your middle of the year for Snell, you have 21% for Snell, and then the state was at 19. So we scored 2 percentage points higher than the state. And then we go to 7th grade. Snell was at 44% for the middle of the year, and the state was at 33. So we were 11 points higher than the state, and we also grew by 12% there from the beginning to the middle. And then in 8th grade, Snell was at 22% compared to the state, which was at 24. It's a 2% decrease, but again, we grew by 11%. Okay, next page is our math in middle school. So we have 6th grade. This is math again. We have 30% at Snell, and then the state was at 32. So we were 2 points below the state, but we did grow. So we grew by 10 percentage points. We were at 20 in the beginning of the year, now we're at 30. And then we had 7th grade. We had 17% compared to the state at 18, so we were 1% higher than the state, but we grew by 10 percentage points, and the state only grew by 5 percentage points. Okay? Then you have your 8th grade. We had 19% proficient in Snell, 22 by the state, so we were 3 percentage points below the state, but we grew by 8% growth. The state grew by 9, so we were neck and neck there with the growth for 8th grade. And again, we do have a math interventionist at the middle school. So our next page is the high school. And for the beginning of the year was, whoops, I did a typo there, sorry about that, it should say MOI. So it's 21% compared to 20, so we were 1% higher. But if you look at your EOY from the year before, we have already surpassed that, right? Because they were at they ended the year at 18%, we're already at 21. And if you look at the year before that, which was 21, 22, we have surpassed that as well because they were at 15%. And then you have the 10th grade in reading was, middle of the year was at 16%. The beginning of the year was at 20. They dropped 4 percentage points. And so that's concerning, that 10th grade. And then we have our 11th right here, which is 26%. We dropped by 2 percentage points. But again, we're higher than we were at 22, 23 end of year, and 21, 22 end of year. And then our 12th grade was at 22%. We dropped from our beginning of the year scores by 3 percentage points. But again, we are higher than last year, which we ended the year at 17%. And we should be on track of meeting that 21, 22, which was 27. Okay, our last page is math for the high school. So we are at middle of the year, we were at 22%, and beginning of the year was at 34%. So this is for 9th grade, Algebra 1. So we dropped by 12 percentage points. And then middle of the year was at 27%. Beginning of the year was at 45. So we dropped by 18 percentage points. The beginning of the year was at 51 for 11th grade. And then we dropped to 37. So we dropped 14 percentage points. And then the 12th grade, we have middle of the year was at 31%. Beginning of the year was at 35, so we dropped 4 percentage points there as well. So that is our math at the high school. Questions?
Just the drop there in ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th.
Right. You know, we've had discussions with the principal at the high school, and I think a lot of it is the students don't understand the importance of taking the test. And they don't realize that how testing is used as a yardstick to measure their academic performance and to make, instructional decisions. So I think it's up to us as teachers and principals to encourage and motivate those students to make sure they're taking this test making sure this test is important to them.
I have a lot of concerns with that assessment in the sense that we set up the environment, we set up the classrooms, we put up the materials, and we have been in a deficit of this category for some time, long before you got up in this position. And I'm concerned for a number of reasons. One is that we pay reverence to the state score, and I don't think we should do that when we're last in the country. We should be setting a standard that's well above that and aiming for that. And if there's any money available for curriculum, it should not go by the wayside. Certainly, even in the case of, I don't know how well the impact is of the honors class versus special education classes and everything in between. But we should be looking at all the opportunities to strengthen in every category.
And is there also alignment with middle school curriculum and high school curriculum? Are they using the same math curriculum?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, they both use the same curriculum.
And I was also looking at the assessment. So we went from maps to stars. Is there big difference or similar? I mean,
they're very similar. A lot of schools in New Mexico use use the STARS assessment as well.
And why did the high school make the switch from maps to
Well,
stars?
as I mentioned, I think we talked about this before, is the new principal came in and requested that we move to STARS. And again, most of Las Cruces is using STARS in the high school, and a lot of the other high schools in the district, in the state are using STARS. So that was a request from her.
Well, and that could also show, that can be a difference with the students, completely different assessment.
Right, and it's hard, yeah, because you're comparing apples to oranges sometimes when you change assessments. I agree.
Okay. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, and even if in the change, you still have a beginning versus a mid-year, so it's within that same context. So.
Yes, you do, and we drop in every one of those.
And the curriculum, I appreciate the question about the coordination of the curriculum between the middle school and the high school. Is this only this year that's happened?
No.
It has been coordinated for the years before?
Yes, sir.
Okay. That's all I had. But in terms of going forward with the budget, is there data that's particular to even the classrooms? So we can take a look at further down to see what's available.
Yes.
I'd appreciate getting that data, and would hope the Finance Committee would receive it as well.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Chavita.
Thank you.
That moves us to item D, fundraisers.
So as always in your board packets, the fundraisers are there for your guys' review. And just some quick comments on data. Our elementary schools, I'm extremely proud of our elementary schools and what they're doing and their accomplishments. And of course, math, I've said this for 10 years now, that we do so much for reading and the language arts. And I always said, what are we doing for math? And even I'm saying at a state level and a federal level that there is nothing coming through for that. And it's sad to me that there are grants and there are other things there. So we're going to need to get a little creative on how we're going to support our students in math. Middle school, I want to say about them is if you look at where they were 2 years ago and a year ago, I think they've made significant growth and they're going in the right direction. And then the high school, of course, it can't always be perfect. So we're definitely, if you think you guys raise your eyebrows when we see data, you ought to see what we do as far as what's going on and the whys and the hows, and better yet, what can we do to support those teachers and students? So believe me, these discussions have already happened long before you saw this data.
And along those lines, the more we can increase the participation of parents in the schools, especially looking at this kind of data, will help the community understand what our challenges are and where our growth can be.
Yeah, we've definitely had discussions on that as far as the data folders, data walks, all of those things, and having that be part of that. And especially when we were talking about high school students, they know their data. They should know their data, and they should be part of that process, and they should know where their score was and a goal set to where it should be next. So including, and that goes all the way down. I've sat there and talked to kindergartners about iStation scores before. They know. And they want to know if their little arrow goes up or down. It could be that simple at kindergarten, but the big kids definitely know.
And maybe at the high school too, I know athletics is a big part of why they go to school. Maybe having those data conversations before an athletic meeting. Because, you see academic stuff happening at the high school and the parking lot's empty. But when you see athletics happening, they turn out in huge crowds. So maybe implementing that data academic stuff within that athletics so they're there ready for the athletics, but let's incorporate that academic piece too.
Great idea. And that does conclude my report.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Corey. That moves us to item 9, public input, items of concern. Nothing. Okay. Does anyone have anything? I just forgot to mention this in my board members report, but we are looking for candidates for our vacant position. So if you can please reach out to Ms. Fletcher at the Cobre Administration Building. I think the deadline is Friday at noon. Okay. That moves us to item number 10. And I think, Mr. Terrazas, did you want to table this?
I'd like to table this just to the fact that I have other commitments I gotta go to, if that's possible.
We can't hold it without a quorum, so.
Okay, so I have a motion to table our executive session. Do I have a second?
Second that.
Okay, so all those in favor of tabling, I'll just go ahead and do a roll call vote. Vice President Guadiana?
Aye.
Secretary Terrazas?
Aye.
And myself, yes. Okay, so this will be tabled till next meeting. And that moves us to item 12, adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn.
Okay, second.
Second.
All right, we are adjourned at 6:30.